Hi, good afternoon. Join me today in Central Vlog. We're going to do something different. So anyway, I'm using my new microphone that I like today. And we're going to talk about a special place that I discovered just a couple of years ago. And this is how I normally walk. This is how I live. And later. So this is the road is pretty steep. So the subdivision I live in is down there. So I normally walk going up the road. And over there, that's Batasang Pambansa, or the Congress of the Philippines. That was transferred there in the 1970s by then President Marcos. But you get used to this kind of heat, so there's no problem with it. So with my attire, I'm pretty complete. I even got my own water. I've got an umbrella. I've got this different stats on my backpack. This is a big deal. I got my food mask on, and got my camera. I'm now on the main road. Just finished climbing that hill, and on my left side is Batasang Pambansa. So I'll just show you this place that I discovered a few years back, and I've grown very fond of this place, and it is historical. It's about an hour walk from my house, and that's where I'm headed to. At the end of this road, I'll be turning right. The name of this place is Batasang Hills. It comes from the root word Batas, which means law. So this shows that this is supposed to be the place where laws are made. And a lot of the government buildings are here, such as DSWD, which is on my right, and other government offices. This was the original plan of the administration of Mateo, quezon, but unfortunately a lot of these things didn't materialize, except for some like this one. DSWD stands for Department of Social and Welfare Department. So this is where I'll be turning to the right, and that road goes to a place they call Bagong Silangan. This is now the road that goes to Bagong Silangan. When I first came here, I was really surprised. I've stayed in this place for a very long time, but I've never seen this until a few years ago. And I only happened to come here because of my walking. And as you continue walking, suddenly this kind of view will surprise you. I'm not sure if you could actually see the mountains at the side. Those are called the San Mateo Mountains, which is part of the Sierra Madre mountain range. And suddenly the road slopes down quite steep. Quezon City is supposed to be a modern area. Yet suddenly you find this place which suddenly shoots you guys to this time. So it was quite surprising for me when I saw this place. So could you see the welcome sign? That's It's a unique place, isn't it? And no one can say that we're scheduled, but we are. Sometimes you could even mistake this place for Baguio. Just have to take a look at these things for sale. Nice place, a lot of vegetation. You don't see a lot of these things in Manila nowadays. So every time I see something like this, I'm so happy. I'm getting closer. And the mountains are getting closer too. Nice, isn't it? The thing you'll notice about this place is that the community looks a little bit informal settlers by the looks of the houses. Every community, they always build a gym where they have a basketball court and some other things that they could do here. What's common here are large billboards and signages with the faces and names of the politicians. And finally, we are here, Barangay. Now, this is what I was telling you about. What makes this place unique for me is that remember 1521 March, when the Philippines was discovered by Spain, Magellan. And of course, Philippine history taught us that Magellan was killed in the Philippines by Lapu-Lapu. And of course, they're very proud of that part of history. But you know, Lapu-Lapu, for me, isn't really a Filipino. He was a Macteño. He was the native of Mactan. And I'm sure that he wasn't even aware of the other parts of the Philippines during that time. But anyway, my point is, there was another official, a foreigner, who was killed in this place in 1899 during the Philippine American War, and his name was Henry Lawton. I'm sure that you've probably heard of his name because his name was used for the Plaza Lawton in front of the post office in Manila. Anyway, so I was so surprised that he was killed in this place, and the person who was allegedly killed him was this guy. It was called the Battle of Paye, and I read about this story many years ago, before all this internet stuff, and it always fascinated me. So the story goes that he was killed in San Mateo, Morong. There's even an old canyon here. It is Bagong Silangan, Barangay. And I'll tell you more about that story later. So the Barangay Hall, we continue walking this way. And we will end up in a river. It's called Marikina River. Out the river. There you go, that's the place where we're going to cross. So this place was ravaged during the last typhoon, about November of 2020. You could still see remnants of the destruction. And this is such a beautiful place, and this is so historical, and not many Filipinos know about this. Anyway, let's go back to Henry Lawton. So Henry Lawton was going after this guy. His name was General Geronimo, and he was supposed to be a Filipino rebel. And that guy, the general, was running or going towards the mountains of Sierra Madre, and that's the mountain that Geronimo was going to. And Henry Lawton and the forces of Geronimo met here at this particular place. So Henry Lawton and his men were standing here on this ledge, and the men of Geronimo was on the opposite side of the river. They were there, and they confronted each other. They were fighting at each other, and during that exchange of gunfire, Henry Lawton was shot in the chest, and he was one of the most famous generals during the Civil War and also the Indian War, because he was the general who was attributed the capture of Geronimo, the Indian chief. So as far as I'm concerned, I would give more credit to Geronimo, General Geronimo, but he actually didn't fire the shot. The shot was fired by one of his men, Bonifacio Mariano, and it all happened here. And remember what I was telling you about, that Quezon City was cut from different portions of towns around Manila during that time. And one of the towns was San Mateo. And Bagong Silangan was part of that town before. So unfortunately, that piece of history was now removed from San Mateo and just became part of Quezon City. Ironic, isn't it? And what makes this story so amazing was that when I first read about it many years ago, it says San Mateo Morong. So I got on my motorbike and I went to the province of Morong, Rizal, and I started asking around, and nobody knew anything about it. And it took many years later, while I was walking, when I discovered this place and I saw the statue. And then after seeing the statue, I started researching, and then it turns out that Lawton was here. Amazing. General Lawton. And from here, his body was carried by his men all the way back to Manila. That was about 20 or 30 kilometers away. His remains were laid to rest at Paco Cemetery before it was moved to the Arlington Cemetery in America. A beautiful part of history. So, anyway, we're now crossing, showing the place where I'm going to cross. They usually make a makeshift bridge to cross to the opposite side. Once you cross that side, it's now San Mateo. And it's made of bamboo. I have gone to this place so many times. Even brought my sons here. So historically speaking, the death of Henry Lawton was more memorable for me compared to Lapu-Lapu, because the Filipinos were now fighting as a nation. Unlike during the time, Lapu-Lapu was just fighting as a datu, or datu of Mactan. Okay, thank you. Every time you cross, you have to pay 5 pesos. So once you cross that river, this is just like you've been blown to another place and time. About an hour ago, I was in Quezon City, and now you're in the outback. Love this place. And from here, you can climb those mountains. Take you about, depends on your pace, could take about an hour and a half to 2. By the way, Plaza Lawton in Manila had been changed. It's no longer called Plaza Lawton, it's now called Bonifacio Drive. As I've said before, do you remember? That's what they're good for, changing names. Sometimes I have to check if the blue light recording button or recording light is blinking. Yesterday I made a big blunder because most of the video I took inside a house didn't come out properly. I'm so sorry for that. So probably I'll come back to the house in Lopez Haina and do another vlog inside. And this time I'll do it properly, checking that the recording light is recording. Let you see what I'm looking at right now. This is such a beautiful place, but unfortunately, if it rains really hard, this place really gets deluged. So if you just close your eyes and just use your imagination, you could actually put yourself back in time when those men were fighting each other at that river edge. And this place hasn't really changed that much since that time, and most likely they would have seen the same things that we see now, all these views, except the garbage, of course. Just too much garbage. Hello. So as you step out from that farmland, there's now a small community, and they're still informal settlers. Yeah, you've probably eaten that before. Peanuts. Salamat. And if you go out, all of a sudden the scene changes. Okay, we'll head off this way. I'll show you the church of San Mateo. It's called Aranzazu, and it's also a heritage church. One of the last Spanish churches that was built in the Philippines. And these are houses that you would still normally see if you know that the place is old, especially when it's near a church. And most towns would have a plaza, and in that plaza they would normally have the church, which is the central figure. Beside the church you would also have the city hall or the municipal hall, or you would probably call those things the municipio before. And not too far away there would always be a school, and then a cemetery, and then you would have the large houses of the Ilustrados. Hi. And this was the pattern anywhere you go all over the Philippines. Spanish churches are always built that way. You have a town plaza, you have a church, you have the municipio, a cemetery or a school, then you have the cemetery. Whenever something doesn't configure to that configuration, then something had been changed over the years, especially when they start restructuring the urban planning of the place. This is the church from the front, as seen from the gate. Another scene inside the church. It's either a seminary or a school. So far it looks like it's stuck to the same design as it used to, but it would be better if the seminary were still made of the old style wood. And once you step out from the church premises, you have the city hall here, but I'm not sure if that's the original one. Anyway, they rebuilt the building, if it is, and beside it is the fire station. As I was researching the story of Lawton and Jeronimo, I found one more piece of evidence that finally concluded my research. And this is the street. The street that I'm walking on right now is called B. Mariano, or Bonifacio Mariano. And he was one of the men, or actually the man, who shot Henry Lawton. And this is the street. B. Mariano. The man who shot Henry Lawton. The street is named after him. And, we are in San Mateo. Just a river away from Quezon City. And what's nice about this place is that there are still a lot of old houses here. Old house. By the way, we wanted to check out one more sign to ensure that this particular place was the publisher of San Mateo. We still have to find the cemetery, and it took a few more days of researching. That's several years ago, until I found this, and I'll share with you the last piece of the puzzle, the cemetery. And it's called Old Kapinpin Cemetery. And that's it. So this was the old town plaza. Hello. Asking me my name. Mukha ba akong ano? Ano kala mo? Talaga? He thinks I'm an American. Bakit? Bakit tingin mo mukha ako Amerikano? Hindi ako pwedeng maging Pilipino? Hi! Yeah. Okay, bye-bye. As we continue walking, you'll eventually reach the main road, which is Antonio Luna. You know, the weirdness of things, that that road, General Antonio Luna, is called that in San Mateo, but San Mateo connects to Marikina, and after that junction it becomes JP Rizal. Signs of development, traffic. To think that just about a decade ago, it used to be a very quiet and peaceful town without any traffic. Traffic started here when they built the mall. SM, one of the biggest developers of malls in the Philippines. The SM group of companies, and we'll be at that mall shortly. Behind me, over to my right shoulder, which is your left on the screen, is a new hospital that they built. It just opened a month ago. We are now in the developed area of San Mateo. A lot of establishments here. And by the look of the establishments, you could actually have an idea where traffic is coming from. All about planning. And over on that side is the SM City San Mateo. That was built about 6 years ago, I guess. And whenever a mall is built in a town or a place or a city, it usually is the sign of quick development. That's the mall. Oh, okay. Now it's recording. I'm not sure if you remember this chicken place before. Mac chicken. These are trucks that carry our garbage to the hills behind San Mateo. And it just passed beside me a while ago, and it stinks. So at that stoplight, I'll be turning right. I'll be heading back home. So that's Batasan Hills, where we climbed a while ago, and we ended up that way. The view of the river, Marikina River. That river flows all the way down to Laguna de Bay. Pasig River. Amazing. It's a beautiful day in River Shoreline. As I walk home along this road, on my left is a fenced off area which one day will most likely be developed. Let's just hope that the development will be very good. And you see those houses on the opposite side? That's where I live. This road didn't exist until around 1997, 1998. That guy's posing for me. It's a newly opened internet place. They like motors, I think. So you will see at that corner, that's Jollibee. It's the Philippine version of McDonald's. And our friendly Robinson's Easy Mart. Those are the new style of convenience stores. Long time ago we had the sari-sari stores, and now we have those kind of convenience stores. They're more comfortable. They've got an air conditioning inside. Although they don't serve food, but nice way to do your groceries. Another view of Jollibee. I'm now inside our subdivision. When you come inside, you're secured away from all the noises outside. So if you want to live a comfortable and peaceful life, you have to live within the subdivision. Another wonderful thing about this place I live in is because we are near the mountains. It is much colder here compared to central locations in Metro Manila, such as Mandaluyong or San Juan.